I've been given the task of trying to present the key findings of our 200-page report in approximately about the next 20 minutes or so. I'm not sure if it's possible for a scientist to make their point in 20 minutes, but I will do my best to get you to coffee as soon as we can. In the report, we provide extensive regional descriptions of 4 major types of impacts for destinations. First of all, the direct impacts of changes in the climate. Climate is a resource for tourism, obviously. What are the implications of warmer winters? We saw some of those impacts here last winter. Changes in or increases in extreme events. What are the implications of indirect environmental changes caused by climate change? Biodiversity changes and losses, sea level rise, disease patterns. The impact of mitigation policy on tourist mobility. How will it increase travel costs? Will it affect destination choice? And indirect societal change impacts. Those can include increased security risks in some regions, as well as economic risks as described at length in the Stern Review. And we identified 4 or 5 of them: the Caribbean, the Mediterranean, small island nations in the Pacific and the Indian Oceans, and Australia. And you might see some other areas that you would expect might be on this list. Another part of the process we went through was identifying major regional information gaps, where the information we have on the impacts of climate change on tourism is marginal. There's very little information in some of these regions, and these regions must be priorities for future research in the next years ahead. For social change, most of you have probably read or at least seen summaries of the Stern Review. Unless the negative economic impact as described as a possibility in the Stern Review occurs, here too we would expect the impacts on demand to stay at a regional or destinational level. And finally, in terms of mitigation policy, we reviewed the existing policies and studies of them, which suggest that they would have only a limited effect on long-haul tourism currently. That's not to say, obviously, that those policies won't change and change the outcome of that. But of what exists now, we didn't see a tremendous change in demand. Importantly, tourist perceptions will be a key to their response to climate change. Their understanding of destinational impact or impacts at destinations, their understanding of the environmental consequences of traveling, these are important. They will drive their decision making. And here the media has an important influence to play. So to calculate the emissions from the tourism sector, we looked at 3 major subsectors: transport, accommodation, and activities. And we included both international and domestic tourism. And to do this analysis, to run this model, we had to rely on UNWTO, and we thank them for their diligent efforts as well, to produce and construct a special data set that we could actually use for this type of analysis. To put in a little bit of context, if tourism was a country, which obviously it's not, it's an economic sector, but if it were, this gives you some indication of where it would fall at a global level, somewhere between India and Russia. And with the margin of error that we had in our analysis, it would be somewhere between approximately Germany and Russia. The scientific evidence is clear. Climate change will be, if not the greatest, certainly one of the greatest challenges to both sustainable development and tourism in the decades ahead. Tourism can play a major role in addressing this challenge, both from a mitigation and an adaptation perspective.